Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're cracking open Peter Drucker's Innovation and Entrepreneurship.
Oh, Drucker, a classic.
Yeah, your stack of articles on this one was huge, so we're zeroing in on how to spot and seize opportunities.
Sounds good.
Whether you're, knee-deep in a startup or navigating a massive company.
Right. Drucker had this amazing ability to see the future, even when everyone else was stuck in the present. He was writing this in the mid-'80s,
Okay.
when the talk was all about economic stagnation, but Drucker saw something completely different.
What's that?
A massive shift toward an entrepreneurial economy.
And this wasn't just about Silicon Valley
Yeah.
starting to boom, right? Drucker really challenged the assumption that high-tech was the only game in town.
Exactly. He pointed out that while high-tech gets a lot of attention, the majority of new ventures and jobs were actually popping up in low-tech areas.
Interesting.
Think about it. Innovations in healthcare, food service, even good old-fashioned manufacturing, these are quietly changing the economic landscape.
That makes me wonder, though, if everyone was so focused on high-tech, how many opportunities were missed because people weren't even looking in those less glamorous areas?
That's a great question, and Drucker provides a perfect example of this blindness to opportunity.
Okay.
He talks about Macy's in the 1950s. They completely missed the boat on the rising popularity of appliances.
Really?
They were so focused on fashion that they actually rejected the idea of expanding their appliance sales.
Ouch. I bet their competitor Bloomingdale's was pretty happy about that.
Absolutely. Bloomingdale's saw the unexpected success of appliances and embraced it. And guess what? It became a huge part of their business.
Makes sense.
It's a classic example of how businesses can miss out on huge opportunities simply because they're not paying attention to those unexpected successes.
So how can we avoid those Macy's-level blunders? What should we be looking for?
Well, Drucker talks about paying close attention to anything that's outperforming expectations,
Okay.
even if it doesn't fit neatly into your current strategy. Are there products flying off the shelves that you hadn't anticipated? Is there a service that's suddenly in high demand? Those are the signals you need to be picking up on.
It's almost like businesses need to develop a sixth sense for spotting those hidden gems. And it's not just about looking at the numbers either, right?
Right. It's about being attuned to what your customers and your frontline employees are saying.
Yeah.
They often have valuable insights into unexpected uses and unmet needs that you might miss from a purely analytical perspective.
Okay. So unexpected success is one source of innovation. What else should we be on the lookout for?
Drucker also points to incongruities.
Incongruities.
And basically where what is doesn't match up with what should be.
Okay.
Think of it like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. That tension, that mismatch, is where innovation can flourish.
I like that analogy. Can you give an example of what that looks like in the real world?
Absolutely. The rise of the steel mini mill is a perfect example. The traditional steel industry was all about massive production. But demand was actually growing incrementally. Mini mills saw this incongruity and created smaller, specialized production models. And they ended up disrupting the entire industry.
So it's like they found a way to make those square pegs fit, even if they had to reshape the holes a bit.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of recognizing incongruities.
Okay.
They force you to question assumptions and come up with creative solutions.
Yeah.
Another example is private health insurance in the UK. It emerged as a response to the long wait times for non-emergency procedures in the public healthcare system.
Okay.
People were willing to pay for faster access, and a whole new market was born.
So it sounds like the takeaway here is to constantly be looking for those gaps between what people expect and what they actually experience.
Exactly. And those gaps can exist in any industry.
Yeah.
Healthcare, education,
Yeah.
even something like entertainment.
Right.
Once you start looking for those incongruities, you'll start seeing them everywhere.
Okay. So we've got unexpected successes and incongruities, two great ways to spark innovation. But once you've identified an opportunity, how do you actually make the most of it? Drucker had some ideas about that, right?
He did.
Yeah.
And this is where the concept of niches comes in.
Niches. Okay.
Drucker argues that instead of always aiming for market dominance, sometimes it's more strategic to focus on a specific ecological niche, a specialized area where you can really excel and create value for a specific customer group.
So instead of trying to be everything to everyone, you're becoming the go-to expert for a specific need.
Right.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What are some examples of successful niche strategies?
Well, Drucker outlines three main approaches.
Okay.
The first is the toll gate strategy,
Toll gate strategy.
where you control a small but essential part of a process. Think about Alcon Laboratories.
Yep.
They dominated the market for a specific enzyme used in cataract surgery. It's a relatively small market, but their product was crucial for that procedure.
That's fascinating. So they weren't trying to be the biggest player in ophthalmology. They just found that one crucial step and owned it.
Right.
What are the other niche strategies?
The second one is the specialty skill niche.
Specialty skill. Okay.
This is where you offer unique expertise in a narrow field. Robert Bosch is a great example.
Okay.
He positioned his company as the leader in automotive electrical systems. He saw that as cars became more complex, there would be a huge need for that specialized knowledge.
It's almost like he anticipated the rise of electric cars before anyone else. Okay, so tollgate strategy, specialty skill niche. What's the third one?
The third is the specialty market niche,
Specialty market.
where you focus on a very specific customer group. This could be anything from serving left-handed individuals
Wow.
to providing products for people with specific dietary restrictions. The key is understanding the unique needs of that group and tailoring your offerings accordingly.
It sounds like the common thread across all three niche strategies is really understanding your target audience and finding that sweet spot where your expertise meets an unmet need.
You got it. And it's important to remember that niches aren't static.
Right.
They can evolve and change over time. So it's crucial to stay adaptable and be willing to adjust your strategy as needed.
Okay, so we've talked about finding opportunities and unexpected successes and incongruities, and we've explored the power of niches. But Drucker also highlighted something else that's crucial for innovation.
Oh, what's that?
Perception. What did he mean by that?
This is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Drucker argued that how people perceive things can make or break an innovation. It's not just about the product or service itself, but how it resonates with your target audience.
So it's like the marketing folks always say, it's not what you sell, it's what you stand for. But Drucker was talking about this back in the 80s, way before brand storytelling was a thing.
Exactly. And he gives this fascinating example. The shift in American self-perception from working class to middle class in the mid-20th century.
Okay.
This change in perception created huge opportunities for businesses like Encyclopedia Britannica.
Wow.
Suddenly, parents who saw themselves as middle class were much more likely to invest in educational resources for their children.
That's a great example of how understanding the underlying beliefs and motivations of your target audience can be just as important as the product itself. And that shift in perception toward the middle class, wasn't that tied to the post-war economic boom?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Economic factors definitely play a role in shaping perceptions, but it's a complex interplay. Social and cultural factors are also at play. And today, with the rise of social media, perceptions can shift even faster, and that presents both challenges and opportunities for innovators.
I could definitely see that. And it makes me wonder, how can we apply Drucker's insights about perception in today's hyper-connected world?
That's a great question to ponder. And it's something we'll delve into further as we continue our deep dive into Drucker's brilliant insights. It's fascinating how those shifts in perception create entirely new markets. Think about the rise of organic food or the explosion of fitness trackers.
Yeah.
These weren't just products, they were tapping into evolving values and beliefs about health and well-being.
It's like they were giving people a way to express their identity through their consumption choices.
Yeah.
But even with the best product market fit, you still need a system for making innovation happen. Right?
Exactly. And that's another area where Drucker really shines.
Yeah.
He argued that successful innovators don't just wait for inspiration to strike, they actively and systematically seek out opportunities. He called it purposeful innovation.
So it's about being proactive and having a framework for identifying and evaluating potential innovations, not just chasing after every shiny new object. Did Drucker offer any guidance on where to look for those opportunities?
He did. He highlighted several key areas to analyze. One is demographics, those big picture population shifts and trends.
Think about the aging population or the growing diversity of cultures and ethnicities. These shifts create new needs and new markets that are ripe for innovation.
That makes a lot of sense. Those are huge trends that are reshaping everything from healthcare to housing to entertainment. What other areas did Drucker suggest focusing on?
He also talked about the importance of paying attention to changes in perception, which we discussed earlier. Those shifts in how people view the world can open up entirely new possibilities. And of course, you can't forget about new knowledge. Those scientific breakthroughs and technological advancements that are constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
It's like we're living in a time of constant discovery, which is both exciting and a bit overwhelming. Did Drucker have anything to say about how to manage that feeling of being bombarded with new information all the time?
He did. And this is where his emphasis on continuous learning comes in. Drucker argued that in an entrepreneurial society, what you learn early in life simply won't be enough to carry you through your entire career.
You need to constantly be updating your knowledge and skills.
So it's not just about learning new things, it's also about being willing to unlearn old ways of doing things, especially when those old ways are no longer serving us or are holding us back.
Exactly. And that can be a challenge, especially for large established organizations. There can be a lot of resistance to change, even when it's clear that change is needed.
But Drucker argued that it's possible to cultivate an entrepreneurial spirit even within those big traditional companies, right?
He did. And he pointed to companies like General Electric and Marks and Spencer as examples.
Oh, okay.
These companies have managed to stay innovative over decades by systematically looking for opportunities, encouraging experimentation, and empowering employees to champion new ideas.
So it's about creating a culture where innovation is valued and rewarded, not punished or stifled.
Absolutely. And that starts with leadership. Leaders need to set the tone, provide resources, and create a safe space for people to try new things, even if they fail.
And history is full of examples of leaders who embrace that philosophy. Think about George Siemens, who founded Deutsche Bank to specifically support entrepreneurs, or J.P. Morgan, who backed innovative ventures and pushed them to adopt modern management practices.
Great examples. And those leaders understood that innovation is key to long-term success. It's not just about surviving, it's about thriving.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of culture and leadership, but Drucker also provided a very practical framework for making innovation a deliberate process, right?
He did. He laid out a clear system for identifying, evaluating, and implementing new ideas. He compared it to the evolution of invention into research. Back in the day, invention was seen as this almost magical process. But with the rise of scientific research, it became much more systematic and purposeful. Drucker believed innovation needed to go through a similar transformation.
So instead of relying on random bursts of inspiration or hoping for a lucky break, it's about having a disciplined approach, one that's driven by data, analysis, and a deep understanding of customer needs.
You got it. And to help with that analysis, Drucker outlined 7 key sources of innovation that organizations should constantly be evaluating.
Okay, let's dive into those. What's the first one?
Well, we've already talked about the first 2, unexpected successes and incongruities.
Right.
But the third source Drucker highlighted is process need. This is about looking for ways to improve existing processes or develop new ones that are more efficient and effective.
So it's about constantly looking for ways to do things better, faster, or cheaper. What's next on the list?
The fourth source is industry and market structures. These are constantly evolving and can create opportunities for new entrants or for existing players to innovate.
It's like saying the only constant is change, right?
Yeah.
And those changes create openings for those who are paying attention. What's the fifth source?
The fifth source is demographics. We touched on this earlier, but it's worth repeating. Changes in population size, age, and distribution can create entirely new markets or dramatically shift existing ones.
And those demographic shifts can be driven by so many factors. Migration, birth rates, even something like climate change. And what are the last 2 sources?
The sixth source is changes in perception, which we've also discussed. How people view the world and their place in it has a profound impact on what they value and what they're willing to pay for.
It's like that whole idea of keeping up with the Joneses, but on a societal scale. What's the final source?
The seventh and final source is new knowledge. This includes scientific breakthroughs, technological advancements, and even new insights into human behavior. These can create entirely new industries or completely revolutionize existing ones.
It's like Drucker was giving us a roadmap for staying ahead of the curve. But even with all this analysis, innovation still involves risk.
Right, it absolutely does, and Drucker was very clear about that.
Okay.
He didn't sugarcoat the fact that innovation is inherently risky, but he also challenged the popular notion that successful entrepreneurs are these reckless risk takers.
So they're not just throwing darts at a board and hoping something sticks.
Exactly. Drucker argued that the most successful innovators are actually quite risk-averse. They take calculated risks, but they also do their homework and carefully assess the potential downsides. He actually outlined 4 key principles for managing innovation risk.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's the first principle?
The first is to focus on innovations that have a high probability of success. This means thoroughly analyzing the market, deeply understanding customer needs, and carefully evaluating the feasibility of the innovation.
So it's about being strategic and doing your due diligence before diving headfirst into a new venture. What's the second principle?
The second principle is to start small and scale up gradually.
Hmm.
Don't bet the entire farm on a single innovation right out of the gate. Instead, test the waters with small experiments and then ramp up your investment as the innovation proves itself.
It's like that idea of failing fast, but in a controlled way, where you're not risking everything on a single roll of the dice. What's the third principle?
Yeah. The third is to build in flexibility and adaptability from the start. Don't get so married to your original plan that you're unwilling to change course if things aren't working out.
So be prepared to pivot, adjust, and iterate based on the feedback you're getting and the results you're seeing.
Exactly. And the fourth and final principle is to manage expectations. Don't overpromise and underdeliver.
Right.
Set realistic goals and communicate them clearly to all your stakeholders.
That sounds like good advice for any project, not just innovation. So managing risk, fostering an entrepreneurial culture, it seems like leadership plays a huge role in all of this. What did Drucker have to say about the qualities of a leadership team that's capable of driving innovation?
This is where things get really interesting. Drucker argued that the composition of the top management team is absolutely critical for innovation success. It's not enough to just have a brilliant CEO or a visionary product developer. You need a team of leaders who are aligned on the importance of innovation and who have the skills and experience to make it happen.
So what are some of the key qualities that Drucker highlighted?
Well, first and foremost, he emphasized the importance of diversity. You don't want a team of clones who all think alike.
Yeah.
You need people who bring different backgrounds, perspectives, and ways of thinking to the table.
That makes sense. A diversity of viewpoints can lead to more creative solutions and a better understanding of the market. What else is important?
He also talked about the need for leaders who are comfortable with ambiguity and uncertainty. Innovation is inherently messy and unpredictable.
Right.
You can't plan everything out in advance. You need leaders who are comfortable with experimentation, iteration, and learning as they go.
So not just a tolerance for failure, but an expectation of it. It's about embracing those setbacks as opportunities to learn and improve. What other qualities did Drucker emphasize?
Well, he talked about the need for leaders who are willing to challenge the status quo. Innovation often requires going against the grain and questioning conventional wisdom. You need leaders who aren't afraid to push boundaries and disrupt the norm.
It's that whole think outside the box mentality, but backed up with the courage to actually act on those unconventional ideas. Anything else?
He also highlighted the importance of strong communication skills. Innovation requires buy-in from multiple stakeholders. You need leaders who can articulate a clear vision, inspire others, and build consensus.
So it's not just about being brilliant, it's about being able to communicate that brilliance in a way that motivates others to get on board. What's the final quality Drucker highlighted?
Last but certainly not least, he talked about the need for leaders to be results-oriented. Innovation isn't just about coming up with cool ideas, it's about delivering tangible results. You need leaders who are laser-focused on outcomes and who are relentless in their pursuit of success.
It's about turning those brilliant ideas into something real, something that makes a difference in the world. So we've talked about how to find opportunities, how to manage risk, how to cultivate an entrepreneurial culture. But up until now, we've mainly focused on businesses. Did Drucker have anything to say about innovation in the service sector?
He did, and this is where he really challenged conventional thinking.
Why?
He argued that innovation and entrepreneurship are just as important in nonprofit organizations and government agencies as they are in for-profit businesses.
That's a really interesting point. We often think of innovation as being driven by the profit motive, but Drucker saw it as something much bigger than that.
Exactly. He argued that the principles of innovation and entrepreneurship apply to all types of organizations. It's about finding new and better ways to serve your constituents and create positive impact, whether your bottom line is measured in dollars or in lives changed.
So it's about applying that same entrepreneurial mindset, that same drive for creative solutions to the challenges facing the social sector. Can you give some examples of successful innovation in the service sector?
Absolutely. The rise of community health centers in the U.S. is a great example.
Okay.
These centers are providing affordable health care to underserved populations, often in innovative and creative ways.
And they're filling a crucial gap in the healthcare system. What are some other examples?
Another great example is the growth of charter schools. These schools are often able to experiment with new approaches to education and achieve better results than traditional public schools.
It's like they're bringing that same entrepreneurial energy to education that we see in the tech sector.
Exactly. And then there's the whole world of social entrepreneurship, where people are applying business principles to tackle some of the world's most pressing social problems. Think about organizations like Teach for America or the Grameen Bank.
Those are such inspiring examples of how innovation can be a force for good in the world. But fostering that entrepreneurial spirit within existing service institutions can be challenging, right?
Yeah.
They often have a lot of bureaucracy and a low tolerance for risk.
You're absolutely right. It can be an uphill battle.
Yeah.
But Drucker believed it's essential for those institutions to adapt if they want to survive in a rapidly changing world. He outlined several key steps that service institutions can take to become more entrepreneurial.
Okay, let's hear them. What's the first step?
The first step is to get crystal clear about your objectives and how you'll measure success. Service institutions often have vague or aspirational goals.
Yeah.
They need to get laser focused on what they're trying to achieve and how they'll know if they've achieved it.
So it's about bringing that same rigor and accountability to the social sector that we expect in the business world. What's the next step?
The second step is to create a culture where experimentation and risk-taking are encouraged, not punished. This can be really tough for service institutions that are used to operating in a very risk-averse way.
It's about shifting the mindset from avoiding failure at all costs to embracing failure as a learning opportunity. What's the third step?
The third step is to empower employees and give them autonomy. Service institutions are often very hierarchical and top-down. They need to flatten their structures and give frontline workers more decision-making power.
It's about trusting the people who are closest to the problems to come up with the solutions. What's the fourth step?
The fourth step is to break down those silos and embrace partnerships and collaborations. Service institutions often operate in isolation. They need to reach out to other organizations both within and outside their sectors to share resources, knowledge, and best practices.
So it's about recognizing that we're all in this together and that we can achieve more by working together.
Yeah.
What's the final step?
The final step is to embrace technology. Service institutions are often slow to adopt new technologies.
Yeah.
They need to embrace digital tools and platforms to improve their efficiency, reach, and impact.
It's about leveraging the power of technology to amplify their efforts and extend their reach. But even with all these steps, Drucker argued that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to innovation in the service sector, right?
That's right. He emphasized that different types of organizations face different challenges and have different opportunities. He talked about the challenges of innovation in hospitals, for example. They're complex organizations with multiple stakeholders and competing priorities.
And it can be hard to get everyone on board with new ideas in that kind of environment.
Exactly. He also talked about the challenges of innovating in government agencies, where regulations, budget limitations, and political pressures can make it difficult to experiment and move quickly.
But even with those challenges, Drucker also saw unique opportunities in each type of service institution, right?
Absolutely. For example, he pointed out that hospitals have access to cutting-edge medical technologies and a highly skilled workforce. They have the potential to lead the way in developing new treatments and improving patient care.
And government agencies, despite all their limitations, have the power to shape policy, allocate resources, and create systemic change.
Exactly. So it's about recognizing the unique strengths and weaknesses of each type of organization and tailoring your innovation strategy accordingly. But Drucker also emphasized something else that's crucial when it comes to innovation and entrepreneurship.
What's that?
Responsibility.
Okay, let's talk about that. What did he mean by responsible innovation?
He was very clear that innovation and entrepreneurship can have both positive and negative impacts on society. He believed it was crucial to ensure that these forces are used to create a better world for everyone, not just for a select few.
So it's about being mindful of the potential consequences of our actions and striving to create innovations that benefit society as a whole.
Exactly. He outlined several key principles for what he called socially responsible innovation and entrepreneurship.
I'm really intrigued by this idea. What are some of those principles?
The first principle is to focus on innovations that address real social needs. Don't just chase after the latest trend or the biggest potential profit. Focus on innovations that will genuinely make a positive difference in people's lives.
It's about aligning your innovation efforts with a purpose that's bigger than just making money. What's the second principle?
The second is to consider the potential unintended consequences of innovation.
Okay.
Every innovation has the potential to create both benefits and harms. It's crucial to think through those potential downsides and to mitigate them as much as possible.
It's about taking a holistic view and recognizing that every action has a reaction. What's the third principle?
The third principle is to engage with stakeholders early and often. Don't develop innovations in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Talk to the people who will be affected by your innovations, get their input and feedback, and incorporate their perspectives into your design process.
So it's about co-creating solutions with the people who will be most impacted by them. What's the fourth principle?
The fourth is to be transparent about your goals and methods. Don't try to hide your intentions or sugarcoat the potential risks. Be open and honest about what you're trying to achieve and how you plan to do it.
It's about building trust and fostering a sense of shared ownership in the innovation process. What's the final principle?
The final principle is to be accountable for your actions. If your innovations have negative consequences, own up to them, take responsibility, and work to make things right.
So it's not just about celebrating the successes, it's also about acknowledging the failures and learning from them.
Precisely. And those principles apply whether you're working in the private sector, the public sector, or the nonprofit world. But Drucker also had a lot to say about the unique challenges and opportunities of entrepreneurship in developing countries.
That's an area I'm really interested in learning more about. What were some of Drucker's key insights about entrepreneurship in developing countries?
Well, he was adamant that entrepreneurship is not just a luxury for wealthy nations. He saw it as an absolute necessity for economic growth and social progress in the developing world.
So it's not just about creating wealth, it's about creating opportunities and empowering people to lift themselves out of poverty.
Exactly. He argued that entrepreneurship is particularly important in developing countries because it can help to overcome several key challenges.
Okay.
First, it can create jobs and economic opportunities, which are desperately needed in many developing countries that have high rates of unemployment and poverty.
So it's about creating livelihoods and giving people a chance to support themselves and their families. What else did Drucker highlight?
He also saw entrepreneurship as a key driver of innovation and technological progress. Developing countries often lack access to the latest technologies and innovations. Entrepreneurship can help to bring new ideas and solutions to these countries, helping them to catch up with the developed world.
It's about closing that technology gap and creating a more level playing field.
Exactly. And finally, Drucker saw entrepreneurship as a powerful way to empower individuals and communities. It gives people a chance to take control of their own lives and build a better future for themselves and their families.
So it's not just about economic development, it's about human development as well. But Drucker was also realistic about the challenges facing entrepreneurs in developing countries, right?
Absolutely. He didn't sugarcoat the difficulties. He pointed out that entrepreneurs in developing countries often face a lack of access to capital, limited infrastructure, widespread corruption, and bureaucratic hurdles.
Oh, wow.
They often lack access to education and training, and they can face cultural barriers as well.
So it's not an easy path, to say the least. But despite all those obstacles, Drucker also saw tremendous opportunities for entrepreneurship in the developing world, didn't he?
He did. He pointed out that there's a huge unmet need for products and services in many developing countries.
Okay.
Large populations lacked access to basic necessities like food, water, healthcare, and education. This creates a huge market for entrepreneurs who can provide these essential goods and services.
It's like the old saying, necessity is the mother of invention. Those unmet needs create a powerful incentive for innovation. What other opportunities did Drucker see?
He also noted the growing middle class in many developing countries. As their economies grow, their middle classes are expanding, which creates a market for more sophisticated products and services.
It's like a positive feedback loop. Economic growth creates more opportunities for entrepreneurs, which leads to more economic growth, and so on.
Exactly. And there's also the advantage of a young and growing population in many developing countries.
Yep.
That means a large pool of potential customers and employees, which is a huge asset for entrepreneurs.
It's a demographic dividend that can fuel entrepreneurial growth. Anything else?
Drucker also observed a growing appetite for innovation in many developing countries. People are eager to embrace new technologies and ideas, which creates an environment that's ripe for entrepreneurship.
That's exciting. Like there's a real hunger for change and a willingness to embrace new possibilities.
And that energy is contagious. It can create a real momentum for innovation. And finally, Drucker pointed to the growing ecosystem of support for entrepreneurs in developing countries.
Okay.
More and more organizations are providing funding, training, and mentorship to help entrepreneurs succeed.
So while the challenges are real, the opportunities are immense, and the support system is growing. It sounds like a really exciting time to be an entrepreneur in the developing world.
It is. And Drucker believed that one of the key ingredients for success in these contexts is fostering a strong entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. What are the essential elements of a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem, according to Drucker?
Well, first and foremost, there needs to be access to capital. Entrepreneurs need funding to start and grow their businesses. And this funding can come from traditional sources like banks and venture capitalists, but it can also come from more innovative sources like crowdfunding platforms and microfinance institutions.
So it's about creating multiple pathways for entrepreneurs to access the funding they need. What else is important?
Drucker also stressed the importance of access to infrastructure. Entrepreneurs need reliable electricity, transportation, and communication systems to operate their businesses. And governments and businesses can work together to improve infrastructure in developing countries.
It's about creating the foundational building blocks for entrepreneurial success.
Exactly. And you also need a supportive regulatory environment. Governments can make it easier to start and run a business by reducing bureaucratic hurdles, streamlining permitting processes, and cracking down on corruption.
It's about creating a level playing field and removing the obstacles that can stifle entrepreneurial activity. What else did Drucker highlight?
He also talked about the importance of access to education and training. Entrepreneurs need the skills and knowledge to start and grow successful businesses. Educational institutions and nonprofit organizations can provide training programs, workshops, and mentorship opportunities to help entrepreneurs develop those skills.
It's about investing in human capital and empowering people with the tools they need to succeed. What else is crucial?
Well, you also need a culture that values and celebrates entrepreneurship. This involves changing attitudes and perceptions about entrepreneurship and promoting it as a desirable career path. Governments, businesses, and the media can all play a role in shaping public opinion about entrepreneurship.
It's about shifting the narrative from get a safe, stable job to take a risk, start something new, and make your mark on the world.
Exactly. And finally, you need a strong network of support for entrepreneurs. This includes things like incubators, accelerators, co-working spaces, and mentorship programs. These organizations can provide entrepreneurs with the resources, guidance, and connections they need to succeed.
It's about creating a community where entrepreneurs can connect with each other, share ideas, and learn from each other's successes and failures.
You got it. So it's not just about individual entrepreneurs, it's about creating an entire ecosystem that supports and encourages their success.
It's about creating a fertile ground where entrepreneurial seeds can take root and flourish. But fostering entrepreneurship isn't just about starting new businesses, right? Drucker also talked about the importance of entrepreneurship. What did he mean by that?
He was referring to the idea of fostering innovation and entrepreneurship within existing organizations. It's about empowering employees to think and act like entrepreneurs, even if they're working for a large established company.
So it's about injecting that entrepreneurial spirit into those big, sometimes bureaucratic organizations. Why did Drucker think entrepreneurship was so important?
He saw it as absolutely essential for those large organizations to stay competitive and innovative in a rapidly changing world.
It's about avoiding that we've always done it this way mentality and constantly looking for ways to do things better, faster, and smarter.
Exactly. And he outlined several key principles for fostering entrepreneurship.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are those principles?
The first principle is to create a culture of innovation. This involves encouraging experimentation, tolerating failure, and rewarding creativity.
It's about creating a safe space where people feel comfortable taking risks and trying new things. What's the second principle?
The second principle is to empower employees and give them autonomy. Give people the freedom to pursue their own ideas and make decisions without having to go through multiple layers of bureaucracy.
It's about trusting your employees and giving them the space to innovate. What's the third principle?
The third principle is to provide resources and support. Give employees the time, money, and tools they need to develop and test their ideas.
So it's about putting your money where your mouth is and backing up those words of encouragement with concrete support. What's the fourth principle?
The fourth principle is to create a clear process for evaluating and implementing new ideas. You don't want good ideas to get lost in the shuffle. You need a system for reviewing, prioritizing, and providing feedback on those new ideas.
It's about creating a structure for capturing those sparks of brilliance and turning them into something tangible. What's the final principle?
The final principle is to celebrate successes and learn from failures.
Okay.
Recognize and reward employees who come up with innovative ideas, even if those ideas don't always pan out.
It's about creating a positive feedback loop where people feel encouraged to keep innovating even if they hit some bumps along the way.
Exactly. And that's how you build a culture of continuous innovation, one that can sustain an organization over the long haul. But Drucker's vision for innovation went far beyond the walls of corporations and government agencies. He was also deeply passionate about social innovation.
Okay, let's talk about that. What do you mean by social innovation?
He was talking about applying those same principles of innovation and entrepreneurship to tackle social problems. It's about using creativity and ingenuity to create positive social change.
So it's about channeling that entrepreneurial energy towards making the world a better place.
Exactly. And he believed social innovation is essential for creating a more just and equitable world. He outlined several key principles for social innovation that are really powerful.
I'd love to hear more about those principles. What's the first one?
The first principle is to make sure you're focusing on solving real social problems. Don't just come up with a cool idea or chase after funding. Identify the root causes of those problems and develop solutions that address them directly.
It's about tackling the core issue, not just putting a Band-Aid on a symptom. What's the second principle?
The second principle is to engage with the people who are most affected by the problem.
Okay.
Don't develop solutions in a vacuum. Talk to the people who are experiencing the problem firsthand, get their input and feedback, and incorporate their perspectives into your design process.
It's about co-creating solutions with the people you're trying to help.
Exactly. And the third principle is to embrace experimentation and iteration. Don't expect to come up with the perfect solution right out of the gate. Test your ideas, learn from your mistakes, and constantly refine your approach based on what you're learning.
It's about having that growth mindset and being willing to adapt and evolve as you go. What's the fourth principle?
The fourth principle is to measure your impact. Don't just assume that you're making a difference.
Yeah.
Track your progress, collect data, and use that information to improve your efforts.
So it's about bringing that same data-driven approach to social innovation that we use in the business world. What's the final principle?
The final principle is to collaborate with others. Don't try to solve social problems on your own. Work with other organizations, governments, businesses, and individuals to create a collective impact.
It's about recognizing that we can achieve much more by working together than by working in silos.
You got it. And those principles can be applied to any social issue, whether it's poverty, education, healthcare, or climate change.
So it's a really empowering framework for creating positive social change.
Yeah.
But Drucker also had a lot to say about the role of businesses in addressing social issues, right?
He did. He believed that businesses have a responsibility to consider their impact on society and the environment, a concept that's now widely known as corporate social responsibility.
Okay, let's dive into that. What were some of Drucker's key insights about corporate social responsibility?
Well, he believed that corporate social responsibility isn't just the right thing to do, it's also good for business.
So it's about creating a win-win situation for both the company and society. What are some of the benefits of corporate social responsibility?
He highlighted several key benefits. First, it can improve a company's reputation and brand image.
Okay.
Consumers are increasingly choosing to do business with companies that are socially responsible.
It's about aligning your brand with values that resonate with your customers. What else did Drucker point out?
He also argued that corporate social responsibility can help companies attract and retain talent. Employees are more likely to work for companies that share their values and that are making a positive impact on the world.
It's about creating a sense of purpose and meaning in the workplace.
Exactly. He also believed that corporate social responsibility can reduce risks and costs. Companies that are proactive about addressing social and environmental issues are less likely to face fines, lawsuits, and negative publicity.
So it's not just about doing good, it's also about mitigating risk and protecting the bottom line. What else?
He also argued that corporate social responsibility can create new market opportunities. Companies that are innovative in addressing social and environmental challenges can develop new products and services that appeal to a growing segment of consumers who are looking for those kinds of solutions.
It's about tapping into that growing market of conscious consumers who are voting with their dollars.
Exactly. And finally, Drucker believed that corporate social responsibility can foster innovation. Companies that are committed to addressing social and environmental challenges are more likely to develop creative solutions to complex problems.
It's about using those challenges as a springboard for innovation and creating solutions that benefit both the company and society.
You got it. But Drucker also argued that corporate social responsibility needs to be more than just a PR stunt or a box-checking exercise. It needs to be deeply embedded in a company's values and operations.
So it's not just about what you say, it's about what you do.
Exactly. And that leads us to another key concept that was central to Drucker's thinking.
Oh, what's that?
Sustainability.
Okay, let's talk about that. What was Drucker's perspective on sustainability?
He defined sustainability as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. It involves balancing economic growth, social equity, and environmental protection.
So it's about taking a long-term view and considering the impact of our actions on future generations.
It's precisely.
Yep.
And he believed that sustainability is not just an ethical imperative, it's also a business imperative.
So it's about doing well by doing good.
Exactly. He outlined several key reasons why businesses need to embrace sustainability. First, it's becoming increasingly regulated. Governments around the world are enacting stricter environmental regulations and imposing penalties on companies that pollute.
So it's about complying with the law and avoiding costly fines. What else did Drucker highlight?
He also noted that sustainability is becoming increasingly demanded by consumers. Consumers are increasingly choosing to buy products from companies that are sustainable, and they're willing to pay a premium for those products.
It's about meeting the expectations of a growing segment of consumers who are making conscious choices about the products they buy.
Exactly. He also argued that sustainability can reduce costs. Companies that are efficient in their use of resources and that reduce their environmental footprint can save money on energy, water, and waste disposal.
So it's not just about doing the right thing, it's also about making good business sense. What else?
He also believed that sustainability can create new market opportunities. Companies that are innovative in developing sustainable products and services can tap into a growing market of consumers who are looking for those kinds of solutions.
It's about creating value for both the company and the planet.
You got it. And finally, Drucker argued that sustainability can foster innovation. Companies that are committed to sustainability are more likely to develop creative solutions to environmental challenges.
It's about using those challenges as a springboard for creativity and ingenuity.
Exactly. And that's why sustainability is such a powerful concept. It aligns economic interests with environmental and social concerns.
It's about creating a more sustainable future for everyone. But Drucker's vision for innovation didn't stop at the private sector. He also saw a crucial role for innovation in the public sector.
Absolutely. He believed that governments have a responsibility to use innovation to improve the delivery of public services and to address social problems.
It's interesting because we often think of government as being slow-moving and bureaucratic, the opposite of innovative. But Drucker saw the potential for governments to be real drivers of change.
Exactly. He argued that innovation is just as important in the public sector as it is in the private sector, and he outlined several key principles for public sector innovation that are really relevant even today.
Okay, I'm curious to hear what those principles are. What's the first one?
The first principle is to focus on citizen needs. Government agencies need to really understand the needs of the people they serve and design services that meet those needs in a user-friendly and effective way.
So it's about putting citizens at the center of the design process.
Exactly. And the second principle is to empower frontline workers, the people who are closest to the citizens, the teachers, the nurses, the social workers. They're often in the best position to identify problems and come up with solutions.
They're the ones on the ground, seeing the challenges firsthand.
Exactly. And Drucker argued that government agencies need to give these workers more autonomy and support so they can be real agents of change.
It's about trusting the people who are closest to the issues to find the solutions. What's the third principle?
The third principle is to embrace experimentation and iteration. Government agencies need to be willing to try new things, even if they don't always work out. They need to create a culture of experimentation and learning.
So it's about moving away from that fear of failure and embracing those setbacks as opportunities to learn and improve. What's the fourth principle?
The fourth principle is to measure results. Government agencies need to track their progress, collect data, and use that information to improve their efforts. They need to be accountable for their performance.
So it's about bringing that same data-driven approach to the public sector that we expect in the private sector. What's the final principle?
The final principle is to collaborate with others. Government agencies need to break down those silos and work with businesses, nonprofit organizations, and citizens to develop innovative solutions.
It's about recognizing that no one has a monopoly on good ideas and that we can achieve more by working together.
Exactly. And those principles apply whether you're talking about education, healthcare, transportation, or any other area of public service.
So Drucker's vision for innovation really encompassed the entire spectrum of human activity, from businesses to nonprofits to governments. And he also had a lot to say about the role of individuals in driving innovation, right? He was a big believer in social entrepreneurship.
He was. He saw social entrepreneurs as those individuals who are driven by a mission to create positive social change. They're the ones who are willing to take risks and to work outside of traditional systems to achieve their goals.
They're the change makers, the ones who see a problem and are determined to do something about it.
Exactly. And Drucker believed that social entrepreneurs are essential for addressing some of the world's most pressing challenges. He outlined several key characteristics of successful social entrepreneurs that are really insightful.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some of those characteristics?
Well, first and foremost, successful social entrepreneurs have a deep understanding of the social problem they're trying to solve. They've done their research, they know the root causes of the problem, and they're passionate about finding solutions.
So it's not just about good intentions, it's about having the knowledge and expertise to back those intentions up. What else did Drucker highlight?
He also talked about the importance of having a clear vision for a better future. Social entrepreneurs know what they want to achieve, they can articulate that vision in a way that inspires others, and they're absolutely determined to make it a reality.
They're the ones who can paint a picture of a better world and then mobilize others to help create that world.
Exactly. And they're also incredibly innovative and creative. They're not afraid to try new things, to think outside the box, and to challenge conventional wisdom.
They're the rule breakers, the ones who aren't afraid to push the boundaries and disrupt the status quo.
They are. But they're also results-oriented. They're not just interested in coming up with cool ideas. They're focused on making a tangible difference in people's lives.
It's about translating those ideas into action and creating real impact.
Exactly. And they're also highly collaborative. They know they can't achieve their goals alone. They're willing to work with others, to build partnerships, and to create a collective impact.
It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected and that we can achieve much more by working together than by working in isolation.
You got it. And finally, successful social entrepreneurs are incredibly persistent. They don't give up easily, they're committed to their mission, and they're willing to keep fighting until they achieve their goals.
They're the ones who don't take no for an answer and who keep pushing forward even when the going gets tough.
Exactly. They're the ones who make a real difference in the world.
It's inspiring to think about the impact that social entrepreneurs are having around the globe. But Drucker didn't just focus on the positive aspects of innovation. He also talked about the potential for disruption.
He did. And he saw disruptive innovation as a key driver of economic growth and progress. He defined it as those innovations that create new markets and value networks, ultimately disrupting existing markets and displacing established market leaders.
So it's about those innovations that shake things up and create fundamental shifts in the way we live, work, and interact with the world. What are some of the hallmarks of disruptive innovations?
Well, Drucker pointed out that disruptive innovations are often simpler, more convenient, and more affordable than existing products or services. This makes them appealing to a wider range of customers, including those who may have been excluded from the market before.
So it's about democratizing access to products and services and making them available to a broader audience.
Exactly. And disruptive innovations often target those underserved markets, those customers who are not being adequately served by existing products or services.
It's about seeing the needs that others have overlooked and creating solutions that fill those gaps.
Exactly. And they often start small and grow rapidly. They begin in niche markets and then expand rapidly as they gain traction and appeal to a broader customer base.
It's like a small seed that takes root and then grows into a mighty tree.
That's a great analogy. But Drucker also noted that disruptive innovations often face resistance from established players. Those established companies often dismiss disruptive innovations as being inferior or unimportant, but they can quickly become a threat as they gain market share and momentum.
So it's a classic case of the incumbent versus the upstart, the old guard clinging to the old ways while the newcomers challenge the status quo.
Exactly. And those disruptive innovations can lead to significant changes in industries and markets. They can create entirely new industries or transform existing ones in profound ways.
So it's about understanding the power of disruption and recognizing that even the most established companies and industries can be vulnerable to those forces of change.
Exactly. And Drucker believed that by understanding the dynamics of disruptive innovation, Businesses can either position themselves to disrupt existing markets or take steps to avoid being disrupted themselves.
It's about being proactive and adaptable, rather than reactive and resistant. But Drucker also emphasized the importance of collaboration in the innovation process. He was a big proponent of open innovation.
He was, and he saw open innovation as a way for companies to tap into a wider range of ideas and expertise by collaborating with external partners, universities, research institutions, even customers themselves.
So it's about recognizing that you don't have to have all the answers yourself. You can leverage the collective intelligence of a network of partners to drive innovation.
Exactly, and he saw several key benefits to this approach. First, it can help companies access a wider range of ideas and expertise. By collaborating with those external partners, companies can tap into a much broader pool of knowledge and talent.
It's about expanding your horizons and looking beyond your own internal resources.
Exactly, and can also help companies reduce costs and risks. By sharing those costs and risks of innovation with external partners, companies can reduce their own financial exposure.
So it's a smart way to mitigate risk and make those innovation dollars go further.
Exactly. And open innovation can also help companies accelerate time to market. By collaborating with partners who already have expertise in certain areas, companies can bring new products and services to market much faster.
It's about leveraging those existing capabilities to speed up the innovation process. What other benefits did Drucker see?
He also argued that open innovation can help companies create entirely new market opportunities. By collaborating with partners who have different perspectives and expertise, companies can develop new products and services that they wouldn't be able to create on their own.
So it's about expanding the realm of what's possible by combining forces with others.
Exactly. And finally, open innovation can help companies stay ahead of the competition. By collaborating with partners who are on the cutting edge, companies can access the latest technologies and ideas and ensure they're not falling behind.
It's about staying agile and responsive in a rapidly changing world.
You got it. But Drucker also recognized that innovation isn't just about big ideas and breakthroughs. It's also about continuous improvement and finding ways to do things better, faster, and more efficiently. He was a big believer in lean innovation.
Okay, let's talk about lean innovation. What are the key principles of that approach?
Well, it's all about developing and launching new products and services quickly and efficiently. It involves minimizing waste and maximizing customer feedback throughout the entire process.
So it's about being agile, iterative, and customer-centric.
Exactly. And Drucker outlined several key principles of lean innovation. The first is to build, measure, learn. This involves developing a minimum viable product, MVP, a basic version of your product or service that you can test with customers, and then gathering feedback and iterating based on what you learn.
So it's about getting your product or service into the hands of customers as quickly as possible and then using their feedback to refine it.
Exactly. The second principle is to focus relentlessly on customer needs. Don't build products or services that nobody wants. Talk to your customers, understand their needs, and build solutions that meet those needs in a way that truly delights them.
It's about putting the customer at the center of everything you do.
Exactly. And the third principle is to embrace experimentation and iteration. Don't be afraid to try new things, to fail fast, and to learn from those failures.
So it's about embracing that growth mindset and seeing failure as an opportunity to learn and improve.
You got it. And the fourth principle is to empower your teams. Give your teams the autonomy and support they need to innovate quickly and effectively.
It's about creating a culture of trust and ownership, where people feel empowered to take risks and make decisions. What's the final principle?
The fifth and final principle is to eliminate waste. Identify and eliminate any activities that don't add value to the customer or to the business.
It's about streamlining processes, reducing inefficiencies, and focusing on those activities that create real value.
Exactly. And that's how you create a culture of continuous improvement, one that can help you stay ahead of the curve in a rapidly changing world.
It's amazing how Drucker's ideas are still so relevant today, even though he was writing decades ago.
He really was ahead of his time. And one of his most enduring contributions was his emphasis on the importance of design thinking.
Okay, let's talk about that. What did he mean by design thinking?
He was talking about using a human-centered approach to innovation, one that focuses on deeply understanding the needs of users and developing solutions that meet those needs in a creative and effective way.
So it's about putting people at the heart of the innovation process.
Exactly. And he outlined several key principles of design thinking that are still widely used today. The first principle is to empathize with users. This involves really understanding their needs, desires, and frustrations, not just from a data perspective, but from a human perspective.
So it's about putting yourself in the shoes of your users and seeing the world from their point of view.
Exactly. The second principle is to define the problem you're trying to solve in a clear and concise way.
So it's about getting to the heart of the matter and avoiding those vague or overly broad problem statements.
You got it. The third principle is to ideate, to generate a wide range of potential solutions without judgment or self-censorship.
It's about brainstorming and coming up with as many ideas as possible, even those that seem crazy or unconventional.
Exactly. And then the fourth principle is to prototype, to build rough drafts of your solutions so you can test them and refine them.
So it's about getting those ideas out of your head and into the real world where you can see how they work in practice.
Exactly. And the final principle is to test to get feedback from users on your prototypes and to iterate based on that feedback.
So it's a cyclical process of designing, prototyping, testing, and refining, always with the user in mind.
You got it. And that's how you create products and services that are not just innovative, but also truly user-friendly and desirable.
It's fascinating how all of Drucker's ideas about innovation, from open innovation to lean innovation to design thinking, are all interconnected. They all point to the need for agility, adaptability, customer centricity, and a willingness to embrace change.
They do. And they highlight the fact that innovation is a complex process that requires a holistic approach. But Drucker also emphasized the importance of context. He argued that innovation doesn't happen in isolation. It requires a supportive ecosystem.
Okay, let's talk about innovation ecosystems. What are some of the key elements that Drucker identified?
Well, first and foremost, you need a strong base of research and development. Universities and research institutions play a vital role in generating new knowledge and technologies that can be translated into innovative products and services.
So it's about creating a pipeline of new ideas and discoveries that can fuel innovation.
Exactly. And you also need a supportive government policy environment. Governments can create incentives for innovation, invest in research and development, and streamline regulations to create a more favorable climate for innovation to flourish.
So it's about creating the right conditions for innovation to take root and grow.
Exactly. And you also need a vibrant entrepreneurial community. Startups and small businesses are often the most innovative actors in an economy. They need access to funding, mentorship, and support to thrive.
It's about fostering that entrepreneurial spirit and creating an environment where risk-taking and experimentation are encouraged.
You got it. And you also need a strong network of investors, venture capitalists, angel investors, and other funders who are willing to provide the capital that entrepreneurs need to grow their businesses.
So it's about connecting those with capital to those with great ideas.
Exactly. And you also need a culture that values and celebrates innovation. This involves recognizing and rewarding innovators and promoting a mindset of risk-taking and experimentation.
It's about creating a social environment where innovation is seen as a positive force, not something to be feared or avoided.
Exactly. And finally, you need strong connections between the different actors in the ecosystem. Businesses, universities, governments, and investors need to work together to share ideas, resources, and expertise.
It's about creating a network where those different players can connect, collaborate, and learn from each other.
Exactly. And when all those elements come together, you can create a truly thriving innovation ecosystem that can drive economic growth, social progress, and a better future for everyone.
It's amazing how Drucker was able to connect all those different dots, from individual entrepreneurs to multinational corporations to government agencies to the broader social and environmental context. He really had a holistic vision for how innovation can transform the world.
He did. And he believed that everyone has the potential to be an innovator, regardless of their background, their job title, or their geographic location.
So it's not about waiting for permission or for someone else to create the change we want to see in the world. It's about taking ownership and using our own creativity, ingenuity, and entrepreneurial spirit to make a difference.
Exactly. And that's the ultimate takeaway from Drucker's work, that innovation is not just a process, it's a mindset. It's a way of looking at the world, of identifying opportunities, and of finding creative solutions to challenges.
That's such a powerful message. It's about empowering ourselves to be the change makers, the innovators, the entrepreneurs who shape the future.
It is. And that's why Drucker's work continues to be so relevant today. It's a call to action for all of us to embrace that innovative spirit and to use it to create a better world.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored Drucker's insights on everything from unexpected successes to incongruities to niche strategies to corporate social responsibility to sustainability to innovation ecosystems. It's been a fascinating journey.
It has, and hopefully this deep dive has given you a better understanding of the principles of innovation and entrepreneurship and how you can apply them in your own life and work.
Absolutely. And as Drucker himself said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. So let's get out there and start creating.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.